Okay, so I'll start. My name is Laurel Allen, and I started at BAPA in 7th grade and graduated in 1993 with Michelle, and I was a dance major.
Yes.
My name is Teresa Mingo, and I graduated in '98. My major was art, and I was in the school with my wonderful sister, Tiffany Mingo, so I always had a shadow there. I was called Tiffany several times, especially by Mr. Gallagher. But I've had some wonderful memories with the basketball team. I just did a lot of wonderful things at Performing Arts. So yeah, it was very eventful.
Your guy, Rob Sales. If Jose Gonzalez and Jodell Nix and Katai Stafford were here, they will let you know that I was the #1 musician at Performing Arts. They're not here now, so I'm speaking on the behalf of them. And they would appreciate me for this.
I love it. Totally unbiased.
I graduated in the best year of Performing Arts years, 1995, and I'm sure they would agree. Everyone else will probably not, but I have someone on the side of me that will agree. And I was a music major.
All right, my name is Dr. Tiffany Mingo. I attended Performing Arts in the 7th grade, graduated in the class of 1995, the best class. But, you know, as I think about this level of confidence, yes, but you know what, my experience with performing arts and my upbringing brought me a level of humility that carries me beyond. So that is my nugget, not confidence, but humility.
My name is Camille McCormick. I graduated in 1990. I always brag because I say we were the last ones to wear the official colors of the school. We were blue and gold. The big thing, let's see, what is this? My major. Well, I started out in elementary school. I can't remember, it was 7th or 8th grade, and I was a dance major. And then I decided 8th grade year, I said, this is not for me. I liked it, but I didn't love it. And so I decided to change my major. I loved creative writing a little bit more, so I got into radio and television, mass communication, and that followed me through college.
So I'm Michelle Hare, and I eagerly came to Performing Arts in the 7th grade. I graduated class of 93. And I was a dance major. I always just say I absolutely love my school. I say it so often. I cherish the times we had at the school. As I was sifting through pictures, even this morning, I got teary-eyed. Looking at so many pictures of the dance majors and our unity, how close we were. We were family, truly family. And that just cannot be replicated, you know. But just beautiful experiences, and we'll delve into a bit more of that.
I'm Yvonne James Brown, and it is an honor to be here with all of these illustrious Arts Academy alum. My heart is filled with pride and just humility that so much has happened in their lives, and some of which they attribute to their experience at the school. I began as a dance teacher at the school in 1978, and I'm so proud to say that this year will celebrate our 40th anniversary. We are all connected to the school no matter where we live. And I'm just so happy that we're able to gather all of the alumni who are here in Atlanta to make this video. And so much of what we've been able to accomplish and the stories that these wonderful young people are telling are stories that just kind of fuel the school in moving forward into the next years. to produce more artists and creative folk and creative thinkers?
I was going to say that the school also taught us responsibility because we had to master our craft, master our grades, and all of the extracurricular activities. You think about some of the performances we had upstate back then. If you were on the crew. Right, exactly. And you still had to maintain your grades. I mean, the expectation was that nothing would dip. It didn't matter how long you were practicing, how many days a week you were practicing, whatever you needed to do, you still needed to maintain those grades. And so indirectly it taught us to multitask and to do it well.
Yeah, I think you guys should talk a little bit about what you're doing in your careers.
Yeah, and that's a great segue because I was going to ask who is still involved with the arts, or if maybe you're not anymore, but you were initially after school, but definitely love to hear a bit more about that. You want to kick it off?
Oh, sure. So when I got to college, I found that I loved to write. And I loved dance, and it was always such a huge, important part of my life. But I think actually my kind of performing arts experience, like just meeting so many people who were immediately so non-judgmental and so welcoming and, found your differences interesting instead of, something to like make fun of you for, gave me the confidence to kind of embrace the stuff that really made me happiest. So even though growing as a dancer was so critical to me, I think really what PA did was give me the courage to kind of own my own words and be my own person. And that was what I started cultivating when I went to college. So I became a writer, and I have worked for, and writing's amazing because you can kind of do anything at that point. And so I worked for a lot of newspapers. I was the editor of a glossy magazine that covered international motorcycle road racing. So I traveled the world and did crazy racetrack stuff for a while. I worked for a marketing agency, which was really interesting and gave me a lot of useful and kind of critical insights and into just how to talk to people and communication. And now I run the digital engagement department for one of the largest science museums in the world, which is San Francisco's California Academy of Sciences, and continue to write. And I say all that stuff not to sound, like braggy or anything, but just like, I genuinely think that if I hadn't transferred into performing arts at the time that I did, I think I'd be such a different person and not as open to as many experiences. At the academy, you go on expeditions and cover the work of scientists, and you do all kinds of crazy, activities. And I got inducted into the Explorers Club, and I genuinely think about the kid I was when I came in, and just didn't really want to talk to people, didn't want to take off my little ballet shoes, didn't want to. Everything made me cry, And I think I owe so much to the teachers there and to the classmates for just. And to that school for turning out a bunch of people who respect and admire people for their differences. And I think that's like the highest thing any school could do.
Yeah. And we came into the school together.
Yes.
And so as you're talking about, your opinion of yourself when you got to the school, and I'm just remembering you when we left and just your evolution. But I think we were all on our own individual journeys as well. You know, we all had our own quirks and
For sure.
Pieces that we didn't have of ourselves that we did not have confidence about, but we all grew together. And that's when I say I was looking at photos just getting teary and very sappy. It was because I remembered our journeys and our conversations and our times together as we traveled together on buses and, going to performances and all of that. It was just quite an evolution.
And being able to actually like see each other on stage as you're growing is such an interesting experience too, because I think kids don't see each other that way a lot. So you kind of see the person as your friend, but also objectively, and I think it makes it easier to see how they're growing and what they're doing. And I remember you from high school really clearly, because I think like I always found like your confidence something that was really handy to model kind of how I wanted to be on, and that kind of embrace of self and stuff like that. And I think like, there's so much, and I could say really powerful things about most of our classmates, I think, because we got to see them in a way that I think not performing would have cloaked.
That's true.
Yeah.
Right.
I think, I know being on stage, and I'm confident, with my fellow performers in African dance will also appreciate this. I always felt like when I was on stage, I was outside of myself. I wasn't me. And I've always created this alter ego. And for the record, I was Sasha before Beyonce. Like, I am the original Sasha because that was always the name I gave myself, you know, when I was performing. And then you had that kind of Michael Jackson moment where you get off stage and, you know, you're still outgoing, you still accomplish things, you get things done, you're a good student, but you just became slightly more insular. And I would do things on stage that I would never do on one, you know, in a one-to-one. And I miss that. I love that part of performing, you know.
Do you remember how fierce you were when you like actually had to go straight from stage to like the hospital because you were like, and you just, and they kept calling you out for encores and you kept going and going and going. And it was like one of the bravest, fiercest things I have seen in my life to this day.
Wow.
And I think we all saw that, you know.
Wow.
Do you remember?
Yes. Yes,
I mean, of course you remember, but.
Wow. Yeah, I do remember. It's funny that you see it that way. That's sweet. And that is actually, that is what was going on in my mind. Like, I can't leave them, you know, they want more. Like, but that's what I'm thinking.
Please, though.
As I'm, you know, feeling like I'm dying inside. But I could not stop. There was, everything in my body said, we cannot stop right now. Despite what's happening, you have to finish this through. Because what happened occurred much earlier. It didn't start when the solos started.
Yeah.
You know, it started toward the end of the production or the end of the dance. And so the pain had already been there. And I probably should have exited a lot earlier, but you're right. I couldn't.
That's amazing. That's amazing. Yeah.
She was literally like curled up under a dressing room
Right.
table in between getting called out to keep doing solos. Yeah.
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 I remember that.
Wow. I'll tell you, I was just going to say that, a true performer. And how old were you? 16?
No, younger.
Yeah.
It was 7th or 8th grade. Because it was the same year we auditioned for the Buffalo Soldiers piece and did not get it. But somehow I got into Lamba. I don't know if it was an understudy and then a
Right.
position became available, or I'm not sure how it happened, but I got into Lamba. And so it was 7th or 8th grade, possibly 8th grade. Because I think that's when we went on the 8th grade field trip. Remember, to DC,
Yeah, I
right?
think
We were in
so.
the 8th
Yeah,
grade.
yeah.
So it was probably 8th grade.
Yeah.
So,
But, and I
yeah.
see that same incredible poise on stage, because like, tell us about your job and what you do now, because you're always on stage.
Okay, so the arts does not pay my mortgage. So my full-time career is with State Farm. I've been, as of a few days ago, I'm celebrating 19 years with the company. And so basically, I serve in a marketing capacity. And so when you see me on stage, I'm representing the company. Recently, I was receiving an award and representing the company for a marketing campaign that I was a part of. And we got gold honors amongst our peers, you know, and it was a marketing industry award. And so now it's funny you mentioned that, because I think about working with Mr. Fraden on the auditions, you know, and being one of his leads, and you know, junior, senior year, we're walking around the school with parents and, you know, who are interested in bringing their children to the school, and we're giving them tours. And I just remember, you know, we didn't take public speaking in school. We didn't do any of that, but there was something innate in me and inherent that was comfortable in that space. But Mr. Fraden and other opportunities at school allowed me to hone that skill. Unbeknownst to me that, you know, 20 or 30 years later, use it, but you know, here it is. And so, yeah, now with the arts, so I received a scholarship, you know, a couple dollars to go to Temple University for dance after school, and I did not accept it because I still went to Temple for 1 year and majored in biology, pre-med, but I did not accept the scholarship because it wasn't clear to me that you could major.
money, yeah.
Two things. So that is one. So it wasn't clear to me, first of all, that you could have double majors, or a major and a minor, or I thought it was all or nothing. So because I did not understand how I would make money as a dancer, and I didn't know what success looked like as a dancer. I didn't think I wanted to be a professional dancer. It was just something that I let fall by the wayside.
I always knew, I came into performing arts in 7th grade, and I always knew that I would be a producer, a musician, drummer, writer, songwriter. And I would just think about it all the time. And so I would remember time sitting in class, science class with, what's his name? Mr. Gallagher. And he would be like, Rob, why are you staring off into space, man? Like, and I'm like, because I'm never going to use science for what I'm going to be doing. I'm not. I knew exactly what I was going to be doing. He's like, yeah, but you still got to do this to pass my class. So I'm like, okay. And I would think about Karen Clark Sheard and Kim Burrell and, and Jose too. We would sit together and think about these people, Jose Gonzalez. And just a few years ago, I got called to do a production, and I was able to call Karen Clark Sheard and work with her. And so I called Jose, like, hey man, I got an opportunity to work with our girl, the girl that we sat in Mr. Gallagher's class thinking about. So we were able to write a song for her and put her on the project. And when you have people or things that have impact in your life, they leave a lasting impression. You understand what I'm saying? And it's a mark that can't be erased, because you can't forget the likes of a Ben Boyer or a Rick Perna or a Yvonne Brown, or a Mr. Gifford. You can't forget them. And these are some of the people that inspire me, along with a whole lot of other performing arts teachers and students. Because I felt like we were a family. I was inspired by the students.
That's right.
They had core values that we were all taught and we learned. And a few of those core values I took back with me. And I started a company. I'm the CEO of Higher Heights Production League, which is a music production company, but it's more than just a music production company. It's a way of life. And what we do is help people to understand how to live the good life through happiness, healthiness, wholeness, and wealthiness. These are 4 core values that I've learned from performing arts and using them today. And it's like I said, it's more than just a music production company. And so, is this the camera that's on? So I'm gonna say on camera right now, Higher Heights Production League will be partnering or merging with I Am Arts eventually, and the reason why I'm saying this is because I'm saying it. I'm employing my words right now. So one of them is gonna call me and say, let's do it. So that's what happens with performing arts. And that's one of the things that I was mentioning about the confidence piece. We all have a level of humility as well, but confidence is attached to consistency. And so when you're consistent at something and constantly doing it, it brings a level of confidence. When I left performing arts, I went to Berkeley, and I would practice 8 hours a day. And I mean 8 hours a day. Like my last class was at 12. From 1 to 8, I was in the studio practicing. And so when you can't help but to be, when you're that consistent, you can't help but to have some kind of confidence attached to that. And it's not arrogance. Arrogance is more so when you are afraid of something, afraid of what somebody thinks about you, so you have a level of arrogance, and it exudes in what you do. But confidence is when you just understand who you are. And so I understand who I am, and that came from being at Performing Arts, and it allowed me to continue in the arts with Higher Heights Production League. And so to right now, this is what I'm doing. This is how I make my living, all day, every day.
I often say when I talk about school, I'm like, I am a legend in my own mind in school. And then I thought about the class of '93. I'm like, I Actually, I think there are quite a few legends in, their own minds from our class, that we were just that class, right? And I'm thinking primarily of dance majors again. We were just a really fun crew, but yeah, I'll let you have that though. That's okay. It was music, so we didn't come over to the dance.
What was crazy is, but
That was
see,
good.
music and dance merged in or that era, 92, 93.
Yeah.
From 92 to 95, music and dance merged.
Yeah.
We
And
did
so-
a lot of collaborative projects, a lot of things together.
Right.
So we became one.
Yeah.
We
So,
did.
and as becoming one, everybody agreed that Rob Sales was number one.
He was so quiet before this.
Right, where did this come
Yeah.
from? So I'll just say this then. I'll give a shout out to the best trumpeter that the school has ever known, Mr. Donald Jones,
Yeah.
who was a member
I
of the
agree.
class of 90. Okay, so carry on.
That's the thing about performing arts that made it so special, that everybody kind of felt like through the years that you were
The greatest.
the greatest, or trying to not top what was done, but the path that was laid was just so special that you wanted to be a part of being a top 10 senior, or just being memorable for whatever reason. So I think we all had that camaraderie and just kind of that
Healthy competition.
healthy competition that just fueled it through the years. Yeah.
Absolutely. I like that.
And you've seen it all through Buffalo, not just in the school, but you know somebody that went to Buffalo Academy for Visual and Performing Arts as opposed to traditional or city honors. You can
Touch
tell.
Tech.
Touch Tech. Not that they were any worse,
They were just
but we just
elite,
had an
but-
aura of confidence, and which is good.
And independent.
And
Yeah.
independence.
I would like to say that in the years following, especially from the 90s on, as some of the alum got into the arts professionally, many of them became very involved in the arts community in Buffalo. So now you'll pick up an Arts Voice or one of the local papers and you'll see an Arts Academy, alumni in there for theater, for music, for art, so photography. So you'll see that. So definitely that there's been a major contribution that the school has made in terms of young people coming out of the school from the various arts programs and now getting involved in the community for those who stay in the area. And then many who, of course, gone on beyond and made names not only nationally but also internationally. So it's been wonderful. I just like to say that those 40 years seem to have gone by in a flash, and as each of you talk about, how special your year was, I know for me as a teacher, one of the things that I always try to think of ahead was my plan for the next year. What can we do to inspire these young people? A lot of times when you're, because of the structure of the program, especially in the dance department where we had our students for, let's say, a 20-week marking period or a 10-week marking period. It was always to involve them in the different aspects of that art discipline so that they could see a variety of things beyond just the technique. The technique, of course, was the foundation, the dance technique, whether it ballet, whether it modern dance, whether it Dunham technique, Afro-Caribbean dance, but moreover, to see how that training could apply to other things. And so there were many field trips, there were interactions with guest artists, there were performances, there were things, getting involved in the community, all of that. That was also a very important part of I know for myself personally, that I wanted to do. And I remember many years ago, Sheila Jones and I were talking about having a conversation about New York City. I'm from New York originally and had come to Buffalo to go to college. So coming from that background, of Broadway and all of those things, I felt it would be nice to, at some point, take students to New York. Sheila had always gone to New York with a group of friends, and she said every year they would pick a Broadway show and they would go down. I said, well, you know what? we should take the students. So she and I put our heads together, and whenever we put our heads together, believe you me, there's something big is going to happen. And I think in administration, they thought of it as trouble because, you know, we're going to take these kids out of school, we're going to take them to New York. They might miss a day or two of school, but they'll be learning, you know.
Right.
So that was how that New York City tradition became part of the students, you know, curriculum. And we started out with the dance department, and now all of the departments pretty much are going to New York. There was a beautiful article written just recently of one of the art teachers, Sean Rutaki, who took a group of art majors down to have a master class with a master teacher in art, and the students were all, you know, there with their sketch pads, and I mean, and those are the kinds of experience that I think make the arts come alive, and that's what you want to do. You want to have them make connections in the real world, and that no matter what you're learning, you see people doing it. You see, you know, affirmation of what you're learning. You see, oh, here's a professional artist. Here's a, you know, they're not apologizing, you know, oh, I'm just doing this now, you know. No, and so when they see that, it inspires them, it empowers them, and they come back to class with sort of a renewed, you know, spirit. And I always like bringing some of my friends who were in dancing professionally in New York City to bring that sort of New York City attitude of the arts into the studio, so in Buffalo. So I remember one friend in particular, I know my dance majors will remember, the director of Forces of Nature, and I know, and it's wonderful because my dear friend Abdel Salam, and he came a few times to conduct residencies, and so the dancers were kind of shocked at, you know, oh man, he's tough, he's in it, but you know, that kind of, you know, element that they now were introduced to gave them an understanding. This is no joke. You know, if you're going to dance, if you're going to sing, if you're going to play an instrument, if you're going to go into media, it's no joke. These are real careers that are going to make demands on you. And in order to meet those demands, you have to be ready. You know, someone said, I believe it was Denzel Washington who made the comment when someone said, oh, that was a lucky break. He said, no, luck is where preparation and opportunity meet. So it's not that you had a lucky break. It's that you were, number one, you were prepared, all right? And that preparation meant discipline. It meant, you know, just learning from everybody, every experience. And it also meant that that opportunity presented itself and you were able to step into that opportunity because you were prepared.
So curious to know how much of what you're doing today and how you lead your students and your teachers that work under you, how much of that was influenced by what you saw and received at the
Well, it's so
Performing
funny
Arts?
because I remember having a conversation with Robert about 10 to 12 years ago, and we connected, and he says, so what are you doing? And I says, I'm a Miss Brown.
Right.
And that's what I began to tell people, teaching dance for a performing arts school.
Was it right after college, you were in radio and TV, right? You were, when you were with WGRZ, at least in 98, right?
No, it was Channel 4, WIVB.
WIVB, Channel 4, Channel 4, yes,
So-
yes, on Elmwood.
Yeah,
Right, yes.
after I graduated from college, I moved actually to Atlanta. I had no desire ever to move back to Buffalo. It was, the transition moving from Seattle back to Buffalo was really hard. And I often think if I didn't have performing arts and I had to go to the district school, which would have been Bennett, those people would have eaten me alive. I just did not have that. I was quiet. I kept to myself. I am an introvert to this day, but I think it has, performing arts made me be the introvert who can be the extrovert. I can come outside of myself to perform, and and I can recreate who I need to be in that moment. So that was one of the things, but I was working for a marketing firm here and I got laid off. So of course you have to go home at 23, 4-ish because you don't have any money. So if you don't want to sleep on the street, you have to go back home. So I as soon as I got there, it was springtime. PBS, WNED was having a summer internship program, and I applied for it, and I got it. But I think I got it based upon the things that I had done. Actually, I know I got it based upon the things I've done in performing arts. For 4 years, I followed the boys basketball team, and I came back and I would edit the video. I worked on the SABA program, which followed at-risk youth throughout their high school career, and we actually did a lot of post-production on it, and it aired on PBS when I was in high school.
Wow.
So those were big things to anyone. I didn't even realize how big they were for me because, again, the staff, the teachers, they set the bar so high for you. You just kept, if they moved the carriage, you jumped a little higher, and before you knew it, you were head and shoulders above so many other people. Right?
Yeah, I felt so loved and cared for, and even when, you know, there were slight moments every now and again of defiance, maybe just senior year, but there was still that unconditional love, and wow, that's just so unique to receive in an educational environment, I suppose, but that's all I knew, I just,
Like I remember waiting after school for so many rehearsals. You guys were in dance rehearsal. Miss Mycheck would leave the closet open and let me get a ball, and I would be in the small gym working on my three-pointer, shooting from half court.
Wow.
You know, Miss Brown would give me a snack or something, like, because you guys sometimes will be there till like 8 o'clock. It's just that community, that family that we got from there.
Yeah, that thing
It's
that you said about coming back from Jamaica and seeing people talking about being kind to each other. It's funny because like when I hear other people talk about high school,
They weren't kind to each other.
And like for us, I feel like we took such good care of each other, and then also got such incredible love from you guys. Right. And it took me a long time to realize like that's not normal.
Right.
I mean you get good glimpses of that, but like that place just felt like it felt like family, and it was crazy.
And have you ever talked to other people who, like, I remember our graduating class, we had 97 people.
Yeah.
And you speak to other people, maybe Texas or New York, and
they
they
have
have
900
97 people.
and-
Right.
yeah,
They're
97
like,
people.
you mean you could name, like, I could name every single person we graduated with.
Not
We
only
knew everyone's
Not only
story.
named them, you knew.
You knew them,
knew them.
absolutely. And that is so special. And something else, this just popped into my head. Something else that school gave me was leadership. Because my teachers looked at me as being a leader. My peers looked at me as being a leader. Therefore, I'm a leader.
I think that's another thing that performing arts has shown us, like the power and the prowess of like what you can do. And having my sister has always been, as well as Michelle, like I've just had so many great people to look up to. And when I mentioned earlier, in the shadow, it was always a good shadow to be in. Like I didn't mind. I still wanted to have my own identity, of course. I am Teresa, I'm not Tiffany. But I didn't mind people thinking I was Tiffany, because she was a top 10 senior. And Tiffany was doing people's nails after school. That's right. There were just so many great things. Her and Andrea Cole, Camille, Devin, it just wonderful people from performing arts. So, the path has just been laid. And I just, like you said, Ms. Brown, having them, I was just recently in Buffalo. I gave my mom a 60th surprise birthday party. Wonderful. And being down the street, from the African American Cultural Center and seeing what used to be, traditional, just to toot my horn again, I scored my career high of 37 points in that building.
Absolutely.
Against traditional. But just to see it that close, there definitely needs to be more happening to keep that, more synergy.
Right, to keep the as you say, the synergy going with the various community-based arts programs.